Welcome to Around the Product Development, our weekly show where we, in 25 minutes, feature lively discussions on hot topic, all about digital product creation. We talk about topics from monetization to innovation, and we cover all of that in just 25 minutes. It's no fluff and just actionable insights from the digital product practitioners at the Agile Product Builders community, the APBC. And about this APBC community, it's a Slack community powered by Boldare, who are digital product creators and consultants. And this week, we have a very interesting topic. We will talk about testing ideas for corporate innovation under the title Slow, Steady, Disruptive. Generating ideas in corporations is difficult and has many hurdles. Bureaucracy, slow decision-making, well, all these things, they can stifle creativity. And there's also a bit of risk averseness maybe in the culture that may deter innovative thinking. And today we're going to talk about all of that with our guest today, and his name is Ignacy Studziński, if I say it correctly, and I hope I did, who is a venture architect at The Heart. And Ignacy is based in Warsaw, Poland. He has worked as a consultant at Ernst & Young in the past, I saw, which is interesting as well. And he now works on venture building. Welcome, Ignacy.
Thank you for having me, and I hope we'll cover most of the things that you introduced the topic with.
Yeah, I hope so as well. And maybe, Ignacy, maybe you can introduce a little bit about yourself. I'm very curious. Well, already mentioned you are a venture builder at The Heart. You were a consultant, I saw before, if I'm right, or well, you worked at the big consultancy company. I maybe said their name already, not sure if I should, but already too late, maybe. Yeah, I'm curious about it. How does venture building work like, or what is it? And maybe tell a little bit about yourself, how you got into this point.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll just try straight from the, let's say, my venture building experience. This is like one of the most relevant for today's topic. So I'm a venture architect, as you said, and what we as venture architects do is we shape and test business ideas. And yes, I work in startup studio, The Heart, and like what the startup studio exactly is. So it's a new model in Poland, and in general, it's a new model at expanding really quickly, but it still needs some explanation. So the model focuses this is exactly how it sounds. The startup studio focuses on building portfolio of startups from scratch, and different startup studio has different focus. Our focus is on building corporate-backed startups. And yeah, so I have experience in working with innovation and product teams from many different institutions like banks, financial institutions, also, but also retail, real estate industry, energy sector, and also with individual founders. So yeah, so regarding the background, if you have any more information, I'm happy to provide it.
No, so just to be curious about, so it's both about working with startups and with bigger companies in that case, right? Because they both are part of this startup.
Yeah, I would also say it's like working with startups that hasn't been built yet. So we are working on first coming from idea to something tangible that has a potential to become a startup in the nearest future, and then working on executing the most promising ideas with this edge on the corporations and corporate backed business models.
Mm-hmm. And that's also the term venture building in that case, right? You basically build a startup like that's venture based, right? And venture in this case, like there's a big company involved.
It's a little tricky because like you can use the term venture building, startup studio, or venture studio. It becomes more and more like right now you can find some differentiators. People try to like say what's the difference between venture builder or startup studio. But basically, from my perspective, they're all synonyms, and the venture here more reflects to the like endeavor, the venture, rather than like venture capital. The most developed venture studios have these two arms, so the building and the investing arms. Mm-hmm. So like a complete venture studio has it all.
Yeah, interesting. And then maybe it's a follow-up, right? It's interesting. We talked today about testing ideas for corporate innovation. that kind of implies that corporate innovation is difficult sometimes, right? Or that it's maybe more difficult for corporates. How does that look like actually? Maybe like, what do we mean with corporate innovation? What are we talking about then?
Okay, so when I think about corporate innovation, it's like the new stuff that comes out of the well-established organizations. So not from the founders working on something in their basement. It's rather ideas that come up from the corporations. And yeah, as you said, it has some challenges. Maybe to name a few. Starting from one that is not that obvious, it's like not all companies actually need new ideas at the very moment, because they're doing really well. They're focusing on like exploiting already successful business rather than looking for something new. So I think it would be one drawback on something really challenging on having new ideas when you work in corporate environment. Another one is like innovation, I think, like from my perspective, is relatively new topic. So not every organization has it really well put, and like there's no standard regarding like generating ideas. I think Google has this, let's say, gold standard. They they allow the employees to spend like 20% of their time working on their ideas, like in iterating with those concepts and then building it. So I think it's like a gold standard, but it's not the same in every organization. And yeah, also innovation is hard in general. It's not easy to have new ideas, and it's also like you mentioned, it's even more difficult in a corporate environment when you have your reputation, you have your brand, you're known from something. So no one wants to be known as one that has bad ideas, right? So I think this shift of mindset is also necessary to allow ourselves to actually have ideas and allow them to leave the boardroom and actually face those real customers one day.
Yeah, that was very interesting that you said that not all companies would need new ideas all the time, actually, right? Because if their business might be going well or it might be fine, right? But I still think that many companies want innovation, right? It's something that's it's become popular, maybe, like you said, right? It wasn't the topic longer ago.
Yeah, when you ask like any company, do you like how important is innovation in your organization? It's usually ranked top 3. So yeah, it confirms that every company needs or wants to need innovation.
Yeah. And then let's say that the company, so some companies, maybe they don't really need it, right? It's going well, but some companies, they want innovation, they want new ideas, and they realize that they want it, right? Because they understand that it's necessary for, I don't know, maybe the market changes, maybe the future changes, maybe AI develops, right? Can be anything that they are like afraid that their position might not be as it is. So what are the challenges that they like? Where do they get like ideas for that? Like, for example, right?
Where do ideas come from?
Yeah. So where do ideas come from, for example?
So you already named some sources. So let's like break it down. I think there are 5. There are 5 of them from my perspective. And the first, and I think the most important one, is actually identified problems. And it doesn't have to be problems of customers. It also might be problems of employees. But yeah, like problems of when a company observes problems of their customers, it might be from like a customer success team or customer support also. They can ideate and innovate around those problems, creating some new products or solutions for the existing customers. But it's also really smart to innovate basing on your own problems, which might be scalable. I think, to give example, Atlassian is a great example of this. The company that provides, like, standing behind Jira and Confluence. Those products were made because they were solving their own problems, working on with their customers back in the days. And yeah, so this is like to show an example. Another one, I think the second most common is inspiration. So organizations or people inside organizations can be CEO, but it can be like other decision makers. They really get inspired by competition, but startups in the field that we are operating in, what they're doing, and having this maybe FOMO that, oh, we also want to have this thing or build this thing. So it would be the second one. And the other, not that common for individual founders, but something that distinguishes corporate innovation from ideating somewhere else. So first is leveraging distribution channels. Let's put Microsoft as a great example. So Microsoft products are in most of the companies everywhere. So to implement something new, it's really easy for them. The teams, the product teams that everybody uses, was implemented at the same time as Slack was built. But they had this leverage on distribution channels. They were just adding something new to their existing customers, rather than Slack needed to promote their products, find the market niche. So it was
find
easier
customers.
So it was easier for Microsoft then to leverage distribution channels. And we have two more left. The one would be monetizing resources or unique competences. And to give example, I would put like the most famous bookstore in the world, Amazon. I don't know many bookstores who made like 30 or more % of their revenue from cloud services. And Amazon is this company, right? They leverage their own resources and unique competence to build a cloud network, and then this became their core business. And last but not least, you said about AI. So trends and external factors is something that companies observe, and they gather inspiration from this. So AI, one example. Also on the Polish market, like 2 years ago, PKO Bank was the first bank in metaverse. I know it was their long-term strategy, but they followed the trend and they making their branch in metaverse. So so these are like 5 most common ones, sources where ideas are born in a corporate environment.
And do you feel that some of them are more common than others, or is there not a trend in there? Do ideas come from all these sources, or in the practice of your work, right? Because you do this daily, do you see that many things come from a threat most of the time, for example, or does it come from a hype most of the time?
It's difficult to say, because it all depends on how those organizations are actually structured. If they have access to top talent in software development, they're more likely to build something really quickly and ideate here. If they have like really good research teams, they're looking for like foresight, thinking what would be the next big world problems and looking like from the perspective of problems. I think it really depends on not even from the industry that you're from, but also how, like, what is your mindset? What is your best talent, and what you have like inside your organization that allows you to have this idea.
And then last about this part, does culture play a role in this as well, you think? Like corporate culture, like how open people are to maybe like look out of their own office, right? And see at other things. Do you notice a difference in there?
A lot. I think culture is one of the most important ones, because when you are this innovator inside a big organization, like it's rarely put in the job description. Like you also need to have ideas. You have to do your job really well, but being innovative is something that like this is like a feature that stands out. So I think when you work in an organization that fosters this mindset of like constantly having new ideas, and I see a lot of companies that try to do it they don't wait for their employees to have ideas, that they motivate them. They have programs for entrepreneurship programs, for example. These are the organizations that foster this culture of having ideas. I also hear more and more like the approach to failing really changes. I put it the diagrams of Amazon, but I will do it once again. This is the company that actually is not afraid of failing with new ideas. So I think this is the element of culture that it's really also really important to have when you want to be really innovative corporation.
Yeah. Fail to scale as well, right? If you want to grow as well, or if you want to go somewhere, you need to fail as well. Hey, and then I'm curious about, so we have these ideas. Where do they come from, the sources? But how do you validate them? Like, that's the next step, I think, right? You have these ideas, they come from sources,
Yeah.
employees bring them up. I don't know, an external thing comes up. The CEO reads an article about AI and says we have to do something about it. But then comes the next stage, right? So how do you work on that part?
Yeah, so validation is a process, and also it's good that we finished on the failure part, because big organizations are not that comfortable with failure. I think they have a lot of stakes to put on, and also they risk more than a startup that nobody heard about yet. So how do you approach testing in this environment, right? One of the frameworks is like what Lean Startup teaches us. It's like build, test, and learn. And I think it's also not that easy in the corporate environment. I think organizations that they're working on ideas that are in the areas that they're really familiar with, or something that they use their internal resources in terms of like IT talent. They can make it this way because you don't need to like hire external, let's say, software house, which is a cost. And if you don't know if you actually want to build it, it's really risky. So I think those organizations who have these resources, this talent on board, they can approach it this way. So if you have the problem, let's say, well, you always have to start with really well-framed and validated problem. But when you have it, you can approach validation with building, let's say, a feature or a product, showing this to like small number of your customers, or in B2B, even making just interviews is something that you can have this glimpse, or should I build it or not? So I think it's like the one spectrum. And another one would be organizations that actually don't have these resources on board, or they are ideating like away from their core business. So they want to build something new for themselves. And I think here, this like methodological approach to validation, it plays a big role. So first, you need to really like focus on customer discovery, look for if the problem really exists, understand the area where you want to ideate and innovate, and then also make an extensive research regarding benchmarks, companies that are already there, to get inspired and to see how they're doing it, to like find those best practices. Because companies that are already on the market, I'm thinking about like startups in the industry, want to implement something on, they already like did all these steps. They like understood the problem really well. They iterated with their idea for a couple of years maybe, and then we see what they came up with. So yeah, the second approach would be really methodological, making hypotheses, testing the hypothesis, and then deciding if the idea is actually worth building or not.
And that second approach is also the way if you want to start a startup or a side company, right? I think that's mostly used in that case for venture building, for example.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in venture building, this is the framework we are using. We also advise like companies to look for ideas as a portfolio rather than like the moonshot. So look at the portfolio, like lower the risk every step, like one step at a time, lower the risk of portfolio of ideas, and build on ones that are really has the biggest potential, rather than like trying one, it doesn't work, I don't want to ideate anymore.
Yeah, that would also be my question. Do corporates realize, you think, how much startups usually have been through already? Because you mentioned it, right? There's sometimes years in startups already of validating, fine-tuning, finding product market fit, right? Going back, which is not visible often. It's not that visible because it happens in the background. It can be very small, right? I assume that corporations want quick results most of the time because for them the stakes are higher, as you mentioned, or how does that look?
I think, yeah, this approach to benchmarking is also really important, and having exactly what you said. If you like know that everything that you see on the market, it's first of all is something that's like stays alive, so it's something already in there. And the second thing is like how the product looks like right now, it's a result of all those steps taken by founders, by the team that was hired on the way. So I think realizing that what we see in the area that we want to innovate in is a result of this extensive work, testing and building something and testing again. I think it really like supports us in if we are going in the right direction with our idea.
We talked mainly about bigger companies, right? Corporations now. But I assume this information or these insights or these actions, they can also be used by non-technical people, maybe people who have an idea as well, right? By people who want to start a startup. I think this is more of our audience actually, because well, some of them might work at big companies, so who knows? But I think most of them might walk around with an idea, might want to do something themselves. So what tips do you have, or maybe what insights do you have for them to get like started with ideation ideas? And to work on that or testing ideas.
Yeah, I prepared. I have it on a post-it note, and the post-it note is also an example of corporate innovation, and also made by accident. So you can like deep dive on that afterwards. But I have two for the people who described. So let's say innovators inside the companies, and one for decision makers. So being an innovator inside the organization, you need to know that you have to convince those decision makers inside your organization to move forward with your idea. So two things that you can do is first gather insights about mostly everything, but most importantly about the customer's problem, and speak from the perspective of what you already know about your problems and how your solutions solve them, rather than showing even if you're a technical person who can build something, it will provide more value when you can actually show what problems this actually solves. Another one is to visualize what you work on. It's find benchmarks and show other companies from another market. It really gives value to those decision makers inside your organization, that they can visualize what you're talking about. And for decision makers, align KPIs. So usually people are rewarded for doing their daily job pretty well. They're rarely rewarded for having ideas. So come up with the best solution for your organization. There is no gold standard, I think, here, but how to align KPIs to actually foster this culture of innovation inside your organization.
Yeah, so we get back to culture again somehow, right? Because I think it's really important, probably, and talked about more and more often, but still something that's very important, right? How do you change people into taking action?
Yeah, I think, nothing to add here.
No, I'm curious, and maybe the last question, and then I have, maybe the pre-last question. So if people walk around with a great idea, right? We just said, what is the first step? Can they contact you as well for it? Can they come to you, or how does that work for a venture building company, right? Or for a corporate, because they're looking for ideas, or does it always work this way, or sometimes the other way around?
It works both ways. It actually works both ways. We did projects for a lot of projects for companies who wanted to get inspired. So show me startups in this category. But regarding the questions you ask, we are really, me, myself, and everybody in my team really likes to listen about two things: challenges and ideas from corporations. Maybe challenges sometimes more than ideas, but ideas also. And we start from this. Like we start every venture building project, it can be like a one sentence description, and then we work from this. So if you have an insight that something might be valuable for some group of people, then
bring it up.
Bring it up.
Yeah. Perfect. Hey, so we came to the end of our webinar actually. Where can people find some resources on this? Can they contact you? Is there like something you would like to share with people still? Is there a place where they can go online where you are a lot? Like, where do you find information? Like, do you have something to give them?
Yeah, so regarding the resources, I think everything around like building and testing ideas, it's applicable to startups, but also to like corporate environment. I think in terms of frameworks, the Strategizer is a good place to go, because they have a lot of actionable resources and tools. I try to post some interesting stuff for me on LinkedIn,
so people can follow you.
Can do it. Yeah, of course. If more people follow, it will be more valuable. I will see that I have to do it more often. Yeah, but basically everything around like having ideas, testing those ideas, those, let's say, keywords, I would look for. Yes.
Perfect. Then we came to the end of our webinar. Yeah, I think we went through all of it, right? I think it was quite extensive. For me, it was super interesting to learn about how it works and what you've done. And I think many people have ideas they're walking around with, or they work at companies and they have ideas but not sure what to do with them. So I think we helped both of them, actually. So thank you once more for your time. For the audience, you can find some more information in the resources. And yes, about next week's event, I have to say this as well, for all of you. If you want to join again next week, same time, same day on Monday, 3 p.m., we have another guest, Mikko Virtanen, if I say his name correctly, who's the CEO and co-founder of Agile Day, and we'll talk about agility as a growth factor. And we're going to talk about scaling a company from 200 to 700 people, kind of connected to our talk as well, right? Scaling, but maybe something to discuss another time. Thank you again, Ignacy. Thank you to the audience, and see you all hopefully next week. Bye-bye.